Have you ever heard of a battleship that simply vanished? Not into the sea, but into the sky? This isn't a campfire ghost story or a conspiracy theory pulled from the internet. This is a documented naval report from 1902, describing how an entire warship disappeared before the eyes of trained officers. Welcome to Infinity, where history's strangest shadows are brought back to life. If you love stories of mysteries, forgotten truths, and events that challenge everything we think we know, make sure you subscribe and join us. Because today, we're going to unravel the bizarre case of the ship that sailed into the clouds. The year was 1902, a time when the great powers of the world were locked in naval rivalries. The oceans were filled with dreadnoughts and battleships, each one a floating fortress of steel. But one ship in particular became infamous, not for its victories, but for the way it supposedly vanished. Reports describe a clear morning in the North Atlantic, somewhere between the Azores and the coast of Portugal. The sea was calm, the sky streaked with only a few white clouds. A fleet exercise was underway, with several ships maneuvering in formation. Among them was the battleship in question. Some sources claim it was part of the British Royal Navy, others hint at a lesser-known vessel on loan for maneuvers. What matters is that dozens of naval officers witnessed what happened next. According to the logbook entries, the battleship began to drift strangely. Its instruments were said to malfunction, compasses spun wildly, and radio signals were scrambled into static. Then, without warning, a dense mist rolled in, not from the sea, but seemingly descending from the sky itself. The other ships slowed their engines, assuming it was nothing more than a weather anomaly. But this fog behaved differently. It was electrically charged. Crew members later recalled that the air crackled, their hair stood on end, and metal objects vibrated as if some unseen force was pulling at them. Through the haze, the battleship was still visible, at first. But as witnesses squinted, it appeared to rise, not sink. Its hull shimmered, blurred, and seemed to lift into the cloud bank above. Officers shouted commands, signaling lamps blinked desperately, but there was no response. Within minutes, the ship was gone, swallowed by the sky. When the mist cleared, the sea was empty. No wreckage, no survivors, no trace of steel or smoke. Just calm waters as though nothing had ever been there. The official record noted only a loss of contact during unusual atmospheric conditions. But the eyewitnesses knew they had seen something stranger. A ship literally pulled upward into the heavens. The Navy tried to suppress the incident, but fragments of testimony survived in archives, letters, and whispered accounts passed down through families of sailors. One officer, whose diary was discovered years later, wrote, "The vessel did not sink. It ascended, against the order of nature. I swear upon my honor I saw her climbing into the mist, her colors still flying." Another claimed the compasses of surrounding ships spun uncontrollably for several minutes even after the ship disappeared, as if a magnetic field had engulfed the fleet. Radio operators also reported strange tones and pulses on their sets, unlike anything they'd heard before. Some compared it to the beating of a mechanical heart. To skeptics, these accounts sound like exaggerations, but historians point out that early 20th century naval officers were trained observers, not prone to fantasy. If even half of the testimonies are true, the event suggests something more than a weather anomaly. Perhaps the ship encountered a localized magnetic vortex or a rare form of upper atmospheric electrical storm. Interestingly, similar reports exist in maritime folklore. Sailors have long spoken of sky waters, regions where fog seems to lift ships upward, only for them never to return. In the 19th century, several merchant captains claimed to see entire vessels shrouded in luminous clouds, disappearing without a trace. Most dismissed them as ghost ship tales, until the 1902 report. The consistency of these accounts raises a disturbing possibility. The phenomenon was not unique. Perhaps it still lurks in certain oceanic regions today. But before we jump to theories, let's step back into the world of 1902 and understand why this report carried so much weight, and why it was quickly buried. To explain the ship that sailed into the sky, we need to examine what could have created the conditions described: a dense, electrically charged fog accompanied by compass failure and a sense of levitation. The first possibility is a magnetic anomaly. The Earth's crust contains vast deposits of magnetite, which can distort local magnetic fields. In rare cases, solar activity combined with these anomalies can create temporary magnetic storms at sea. Such storms could disrupt compasses, radios, and even produce ionized mists that look and behave unlike normal fog. Witnesses may have seen the ship distorted by refraction, making it appear to rise. But that doesn't explain the total disappearance. A mirage can't erase steel from the ocean. Unless the ship drifted into a phenomenon far stranger. Some physicists point to St. Elmo's fire, plasma discharges often seen on ships during electrical storms. Multiply that effect by 1,000, and you could have an event that blinds observers, overwhelms instruments, and cloaks a ship. Another theory suggests the vessel entered a localized updraft, a rare but violent vertical current of air capable of pulling even heavy objects skyward. Though unproven for ships, meteorologists admit such currents exist in superstorms. More speculative researchers whisper about temporary rifts in magnetic fields, openings where our atmosphere and ionosphere create an optical or physical illusion of ascent. Strikingly, similar ascension reports exist from World War II pilots, who claim to see ships below them vanish into cloud layers in seconds, never to reappear. Whether natural or not, the 1902 incident remains an unsolved blend of eyewitness reliability and physical impossibility. A paradox locked inside the ocean's silence. Which brings us to the last piece of this puzzle. Why would the Navy bury such a report instead of investigating it further? The early 1900s was a tense era. Imperial powers relied on their fleets not just for defense, but as symbols of national pride. The loss of a warship in such bizarre circumstances could damage morale and credibility. Thus, the incident was quickly reduced to a line in an exercise report: loss of vessel under extreme fog conditions. Nothing more. No explanations. No follow-up. Survivors and witnesses were pressured into silence. Some were reassigned. Others wrote of nightmares, visions of the ship eternally drifting above the clouds. Over time, the story became a naval ghost tale, told in hushed voices among sailors. But in the 1950s, researchers digging into declassified British archives stumbled on fragments, letters, coded memos, and a redacted logbook hinting at the event. These documents reignited the mystery, leading journalists to dub it the ship that sailed into the sky. Unlike the Bermuda Triangle stories, this case rests on military records and multiple eyewitness accounts. It's harder to dismiss, and harder to explain. Some historians argue it was mass hysteria. Others maintain it was a cover-up of experimental naval technology. A few cling to the idea of a natural but unrepeatable phenomenon. What remains undeniable is this: a ship vanished in full view of dozens of trained men, and the official record refuses to tell the whole story. And perhaps that's the greatest mystery of all, not just the disappearance itself, but the silence that followed. Because silence in history often hides truths too unsettling to face. So the next time you look out over calm seas, remember, some ships are not lost to the deep. Some are lost to the sky. What do you think really happened in 1902? Was this a freak of nature, a distortion of human perception, or something beyond science as we know it? Drop your theory in the comments, because the debate over this mystery is far from over. And if you love stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to Infinity. Here, history isn't just about dates and facts, it's about the mysteries that refuse to sink.